Good morning everybody, hello and welcome to another sensory walk live on the Active Wellbeing Society Facebook page. Today I'm at Handsworth Park. It might be reversed because I've got the camera facing me, but I'll soon turn it around to show our guest who's behind me as well. So it's another visit to the lovely Handsworth Park in the Handsworth area. Today we're at the Hampstead Road side of the park, and this is the lovely sign on the board behind me. And I'm going to be joined now with a special guest, Rachel from Legacy West Midlands, who's going to be talking about some of the heritage in the park as well as taking in this lovely sensory experience of being around here in the green spaces and enjoying this wonderful, open, lovely park that we have here. So welcome viewers, I've got 11 viewers, hello. I'm going to turn my camera and let my guest introduce herself. She has been with us before, so you may have recognized her on previous videos.
Morning everyone, I'm Rachel. I work in Handsworth for Legacy West Midlands, and I'm one of the heritage officers, and so I thought we'd go for a bit of a wander around Handsworth Park and enjoy this beautiful sort of fresh February morning. It's a lovely day to be outside, so I could encourage you, if you're not outside now, try to get outside, and Handsworth Park is a lovely place to enjoy.
Brilliant, we got a few thumbs up, so everyone who's watching, please do say hello. Send us your name in the comments, let us know you're watching, and please do share it on with your fellow Facebook followers, and so that they can see and learn about the history and the heritage. And just as we are walking, you've got this lovely building behind Rachel as well. So those who haven't been in Handsworth Park, why haven't you been here? It's an absolutely beautiful park, and please do come and visit. So we're going to turn right on this path and we're going to head towards the church graveyard there. Hello Christina and hello Daniel. Thanks for saying hello in the comments. Have you guys been to this park? Do you know this park? And if you have, tell us in the comments what's your earliest memories or what's your favourite place of the park. Okay, so we're going to walk and talk, and we're going to hopefully keep you with us for 45 minutes roughly, and we're going to talk about some of the sensory elements. I mean, straight away I've got this visual treat of the lake here, the pond, and look at the splendid view that you can see just across here.
I was just going to say that, I mean, you sort of think to yourself, oh, in the winter, you know, there aren't leaves on the trees, but I mean, just look at the difference. You can see the gorse here, and then obviously there's a few flowers on the gorse, and then the willow. Even though it's got no leaves on, just the colour of the branches compared to the gorse, and then you've got the umbrella over there, and obviously, like you said, you've got the pool. It's just a really beautiful, you know, like you say, very sensory experience, even in the winter.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I went for a walk with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and we came to Handsworth Park because obviously under the current restrictions you're still allowed to walk with one other person.
Yes. Yeah.
And because when I was growing up, I grew up in a little village in Staffordshire, and interestingly Handsworth was in Staffordshire until 1911 in the Greater Birmingham Act, but I was sort of way up north in Staffordshire. But anyway, my mum, she used to walk us and take us around and have a look in graveyards. She was really interested in graveyards, and I think looking back on it, that might have actually sort of sparked my interest in history, because you look at the graveyards and you just consider what these people's lives were like and how they were the same as you. Should we turn right?
Yeah, turning right here.
And how their lives were different, how they were the same. So I've always been really interested in graveyards and churchyards, and I thought maybe that's just, I'm a bit strange because, you know, that was just something that my mum sort of used to take me in and show me. But I went for a walk with my friend the other week, and we went into the churchyard, and she said, I love graveyards. So I thought, well, I'm glad it's not just me. So I hope that when I have a chat about things in the graveyard that you'll be interested in it as well.
Absolutely. Good morning, Natalie. She said this is a brilliant idea. Sadly, she's over 100 miles away. That's fine. You've joined us virtually. So welcome through the power of Facebook. We're at St. Mary's Church and we're going to go into the graveyard here. And Rachel's going to talk about some interesting facts around here as well. So that's fine. Please do share it on with your people on your family network or your Facebook network. So we're coming up to this beautiful entrance.
So,
look at the view of the church, St. Mary's Church. It is one of the oldest churches in Handsworth, isn't it? Yeah,
it's
probably the oldest.
It's the oldest building in Handsworth.
Yeah.
So, and the first time I came here was a few years ago when I first started working for Legacy, and I met this wonderful person, Reg. I think it was Reg Gower. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but he was a church warden, and he took me around. I just turned up, and he just happened to be there, and I told him who I was, and he took me around and he told me some stories. So a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today was what Reg told me about, and he was a member of the Handsworth Historical Society. So there's loads of information about Handsworth history on there. So I can't even claim to be like a huge expert, and there's a lot of people in the Handsworth Historical Society who were very generous with me about sort of sharing sort of stories of Handsworth, and I think that they still run talks and this sort of things, and they have coffee mornings. Obviously not at the moment. I don't know if they've got anything virtual, but you know, a really lovely group of people and very giving. But thank you to Reg for all the stories that he shared with me. But yeah, so St Mary's, Father Bob Stevens is now the vicar here, but this church is the oldest building in the whole of Handsworth, and I think the first rector was recorded here in 1199. I haven't checked any of my facts today, this morning, but I think I'm right in saying that. So the oldest part of the building, Reg showed me, was somewhere, I think it's the stonework here. Can you see that sort of...
That stonework just there?
Can you see it just sticking out?
Yeah.
And if you look at the
so
rest of the
I'll
sandstone,
zoom into it so our viewers know. So this little bit here you're referring to, yeah?
the little, can you see the bit that's coming out?
Curved, yeah.
Yeah.
That bit there.
Yeah.
Is the oldest part of the church, guys.
Yeah. Because when I hadn't thought about it, but when you actually look at the rest of the sandstone and how sharp the edges are compared to
the rest
of this little bit here, then you can actually sort of see. Because what happened was, thanks to Matthew Bolton, who's one of the people I'm going to be talking about today, he established one of the oldest factories of the modern era right here in Handsworth. I have to say there was a slightly earlier one over in Derby, so I can't sort of claim it was the first one, but yeah, so Soho Manufactory. And before that, Handsworth was just countryside, you know, and you know, a few scattered little farmsteads, and then of course the church, which would have been much smaller, so hardly anybody living in the area. But then thanks to Matthew Bolton, he obviously wanted people to come and work in his manufactory, so at least sort of 600 people worked in his various businesses. They had to come and move to the area and set up home, and then an old colleague always used to describe Soho and Handsworth to me as like the Silicon Valley of the 18th century. If you think about Silicon Valley over in America now, you might not be working for Facebook or whoever, but you still want to actually be where it's all happening, and that's what happened here in sort of Handsworth and in Birmingham. People wanted to come and, you know, have the kudos of working in this amazing area, which was at the cutting edge of technology. So more people came and set up businesses, more people moved to work in those factories, and then the population grew. So it started to grow really from 1760s, which is when Bolton set up his manufactory, and the population grew and grew. More and more businesses and factories were established. And so, and also, as well as that, sorry Taz, we should be walking as well as
It's all right.
I just got onto my pet subject with Matthew Bolton.
It's fine.
But, you know, it's not only that, Handsworth was a really, really sort of trendy place to live. And you'll back me up on this. There's some beautiful, beautiful houses, particularly Victorian houses, so slightly later than Matthew Bolton. But that's because it was such a cool place to live and everybody wanted to live here, so they came. And so this was when, you know, St Mary's was sort of extended and extended. So what you see now, you know, would not have been here, you know, sort of way back, like I was talking about 1199, which was when the first rector was recorded. So that's when the first rector was recorded. So there was a stone building, but then we believe that it was a place of worship even before there was a stone building, so way before. So very, very sort of ancient and beautiful building. We're not going to go in today, but you know, it's very beautiful inside.
Just going to show you some of the views of the building from here. Hope you can see this. You need to come and see it yourself. So if you've been in the park and you skip by, the gate for the graveyard is open.
It's always
so
open.
Always open, and you can come and visit here, and you can take a walk and walk through the graveyard with the view of the lake behind you as well.
And I mean, just when I was here with my friend, I think it's really lovely to come, you know, if you can with somebody else, because she, you know, just picked up on just this beautiful, look at this, it looks like an actual piece of cloth. And the craftsmanship of this, just amazing. And this is like one of the Victorian gravestones that's just here, and obviously covered with moss, and it just looks organic. It doesn't look like it was made out of stone. It's incredible. So what was I going to say about Matthew Bolton? So Matthew Bolton is buried here in St Mary's, along with that other giant of the Industrial Revolution, James Watt, his business partner, and also the person who worked for them, William Murdoch, is buried here. William Murdoch and James Watt, both Scots. They came down from Scotland because there were more opportunities in business. Matthew Bolton himself, he was a Brummie boy. But what Reg said to me when he was taking me around is they're not quite sure exactly where Matthew Bolton is buried, and that's because of the sort of the extensions. So they think that he's underneath one of the extensions of the church. He's certainly not actually out in the graveyard. So yeah, I'm just walking around now to one of my favourite, I don't know if I should say he's my favourite person, but it's a story that I often tell. This is William Booth.
Now, can you read that, guys? William Booth. You see the booth there? Can you read the William? Hopefully you can.
Yeah. So I don't think I told you this story.
No, you haven't heard the William Booth story.
Yeah.
No.
So, but I know I have I was talking to Carmi about it. But William Booth is supposed to be. Are we a bit close to the...
Yeah, we're a bit close to the traffic. Yeah, let's go over here. Sorry about that. We want to be near the grave, but obviously because of the traffic noise, we're going to move a little bit further away, and so you can hear Rachel and taking this wonderful knowledge that she has, and hopefully share it on with your friends and families as well.
And again, this is sort of a tribute to Reg, who told me this story. So William Booth is infamous because he is supposed to be the last person who was actually hanged for money forgery, for fake money, and so he produced fake coins and fake notes, and so what Reg said to me was that there's a folk song which ever since that time I've been looking for. I've still not managed to sort of hear it, and it's twice tried, twice hung, and twice buried. That's the story of William Booth. So he was actually tried for the murder of his brother, but I don't know if he did it or not, but he wasn't convicted. Then he was I don't know if you know Booth's Farm Road, and there's sort of quite a lot of I think I sort of had a Google, and there's like Booth's Walk, and
Booth
like
Street, yeah.
so he had a farmstead not far from here, and so his farm was raided, and they found all this sort of paraphernalia which show and fake coins, which showed that he was forging fake coins, and so he was tried for that. And so second time he wasn't convicted for the murder of his brother, but he was convicted for money forgery. So he was hung twice in Stafford jail, as I mentioned, Handsworth, part of Staffordshire. So the first time the rope broke, and the second time they were successful, and then twice buried. So there's two different stories. One story is that he was buried, and then because he was such a hated figure, people said, oh no, he needs to be reburied underneath a path so that people will actually walk over him. But then Reg also said that they rebuilt the wall, so it might just have been that they needed to rebury the bodies that were there. And I always sort of think he died, I think, slightly after Matthew Bolton. Matthew Bolton died in 1809, but one of the things that Matthew Bolton did, really like the culmination of all his work in sort of steam and working in metals, was he produced the first steam-powered mint. And because he employed so many people, as I say, he employed at least 600 people. He claimed somewhere that he employed 1,000 people, which was massive at that stage in the 18th century. But he was really worried, because it's estimated that about 75% of the coinage at that time was fake. So you know that you're paying your workers with fake coins, and he hated that. So his ambition was to create a coin, and cartwheel penny was one of the coins that he made, very famous coin, that you could not fake. It's impossible, because he didn't want to be paying his workers in fake coinage. So the fact that he is buried in the same churchyard as a famous money forger, I'm sure would have made him very unhappy. So yeah, that's
so Sandra's put down here, me, I have many kids, I have many as kids, so the memories, she's talking about memories as a kid, she has many, and she loves the church. Late night, all of us heard there's a lady in white roamed here.
Really?
Have you heard of that rumour? No?
I don't know. This is something that I don't know about. I don't know about any ghost stories. I'd be really interested to know about that.
Well, thank you, Sandra, for sharing that, and thank you everyone else who's been commenting. My colleague on the other side is helping us with some of the questions and answers, so please do continue chatting. It's nice to see there's conversation going on there. We have to look out for a daffodil as well, Rachel, because we're going to look out for a daffodil for someone who's
I've seen the
requested
yellow of the gorse, so I haven't seen any daffodils, but I just wanted to pause here and just this is a sort of stone which commemorates, well, it says 35 Roman gypsies who were buried here. Now, because this is something, I think they were buried somewhere over there, I think I'm right in saying, but at the time that the Roman gypsies were sort of coming and travelling to the area, obviously if they passed away there was no proper respect for them, and obviously the travelling community sort of still suffers. Sorry, I'm
you're in
right
the
into the
sun.
sun.
If you stand on that side
then suffers with a lot of sort of inequality and are unfairly treated. But S.L. Smith, who was the king of the Roman gypsies, and Hinchy Smith, they were both buried in the churchyard, and this was actually this stone was put in place about 5 years ago, just to recognise the fact that they are here. And so these gypsies, they were from the Black Patch, and I know very little about the Romany community, but the story that I have heard is that Charlie Chaplin was supposed to have been born on Black Patch, even though he always claimed that he'd been born in London, but Black Patch was actually where he was supposed to have been buried. So, you know, sort of very famous film star of the early 20th century. So that's my fascinating fact about Black Patch Romany gypsies.
So if you go to Black Patch, you will see another stone like this there as well, which in Black Patch Park, it's not too far from here. Those who know it, I grew up around the area, so I used to play in there. So maybe one day we'll do a walk over at Black Patch.
You see, I haven't been to Black Patch Park, so yeah. So have you heard the story about Charlie Chaplin?
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought he was born there, but I didn't know about the fact that he claimed to be born in London. But I thought it was a fact that he was born at Black Patch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
And I love Charlie Chaplin, we all do, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to sort of show you one more grave before we move on. Just while we're walking across, just wanted to tell you a bit about Matthew Bolton again. But he wasn't a wealthy man. You know, they were sort of, I guess you would sort of say they were doing okay. His father was making Birmingham toys, which are sort of small metal objects, but weren't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. And so what happened was he married a distant cousin from the Robinson family, who were well-to-do, and so he got the dowry from marrying her. But then, after a few years of marriage, sadly she passed away, and then within a year he married her sister, so he got another bit of dowry from the Robinson family. But I mention that because after that he had a falling out with the vicar at St Mary's, because the vicar wasn't very impressed that he'd married again, you know, with unseemly haste, and also sort of married the sister of his dead wife. And so Matthew Bolton, at that stage, he stopped worshipping there, and he worshipped, I think it was at St Paul's over in the Jewellery Quarter. And then when the vicar left, he came back and started worshipping at that in St Mary's again. So yeah, little story about just sort of politics and fallings out in the 18th century. Just when I was chatting about that, I just heard a woodpecker. Did you hear it?
Yes, I was listening to that sound. Did you guys pick that up? I know it's quite difficult because we've got some work going on today as well in the park, but I hope you picked it up, but I might play that back and see if I can hear it there.
Yeah. There's a really I was listening to, they have Tweet of the Day on Radio 4, which is just like a little couple of minute segment with information. It was actually on Sunday, they played back a lot of the woodpecker ones. So as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, amazing.
It was the RSPB Birdwatch weekend this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So I hope many of you took pictures of the birds in your garden and then did use the hashtag. I certainly was looking out for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of birds, it's hard to hear anything over
it's
all
like a gathering,
geese.
there's a meeting going on there.
A gaggle of geese. So I just wanted to point out this gravestone of William McGregor.
Okay, let me show that closer first. So let's show you William McGregor's gravestone here. And you all have a read of that. And then at the bottom, can you see the founder of the Football League and the chairman of Aston Villa FC.
Yeah, so I mean, when I came in, I had because I often, what's lovely about doing these walks with you, Taz, and also like during lockdown, is I always knew that this white gravestone, you can see it from the park, and we used to whiz through the park.
Yeah,
but when you're sort of, you know, when you're sort of talking about so many other different things, you don't have time to sort of pause. But during lockdown, I've actually sort of come and spent a bit more time and looked at the inscription. And William McGregor was somebody who I knew a bit about because I used to work at Aston Hall, and we did an exhibition called Astonish about you know, sort of just aspects of Aston life, and I did a bit about William McGregor, obviously absolutely pivotal, you know, like the Football League now, you know, sort of $1 million, if not £1 billion industry. I'm sure William McGregor wouldn't have established, you know, expected that. But what he was interested in is just because just setting football on a more professional sort of standard, because often, you know, it was just a bit sort of haphazard and hit and miss, and sometimes you would arrange fixtures and other team wouldn't turn up, or not the full team, and you just thought, oh, come on. So it wasn't only William McGregor for Aston Villa, it was a few other, I think Blackburn was one of them, there were a few other teams, but they were the people who really sort of set it on a more professional footing. And who would have thought, you know, sort of 150, I don't know, years later, that, you know, we would be looking at where football is today. It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, William McGregor is right here. And something interesting is that I've talked about, you know, I've seen pictures of William McGregor when I was working on the exhibition. There's a lovely statue of him in just outside the Aston Villa Stadium, and he looks like a very typical grand Victorian gent with, you know, sort of the big bushy beard, and you know, I thought he was about 80, but then I sort of see here he was only 65.
60, yeah.
You know, his Jessie was 60, his wife, and then he was 65. You know, which is really sort of 65 is nothing.
Nothing.
Is it?
No. Let's just show you again the ages, if you can see that. So this is by the boathouse. You can see the boathouse behind us, and just there, as you're walking along the path, you will see this white gravestone, and this is where I would say, do come and have a visit, and do come and see it. Brilliant. So thank you. We'll keep walking. Sandra's put down she met her first boyfriend here, and she'd love to come back sometime.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, Sandra. Please do come and visit our beautiful park and this lovely space.
Yeah. So I mean, a few years ago, a lot of work was done. There was a big heritage lottery grant for the park that we're going to go into now, and it was really brought back to its former glory. And I don't know about you, Taz, I just think it's lovely that whatever time of day you come, there's always people walking in it, and it's just lovely to see it so well used.
That's right. I've come here with family on weekends. It's really busy. I've come in the morning for a walk or a bike ride. It's been really busy. So it is a well used park, and it's safe, and it's lovely. It's clean as well, and we do try and keep the parks clean as well. So thanks for everyone that takes care of their green space, especially if it's local to you and you take pride and ownership of your parks. That's what we want to do. Yeah.
I mean, did you just heard?
Yeah, I heard it again.
Heard it again. The woodpecker.
Did you hear it?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that in terms of history, I'm a sort of a generalist. I know a bit about a lot of stuff, but in terms of the park, I do feel like a bit of a fraud, because, you know, there's these Friends of Handsworth Park, which is a voluntary organisation. Anybody can join and you know, sort of get involved. They have got a wonderful website, and you know, so if you want any more information about the park, then their website is the one to go for. So and we're going to sort of go into the park now. It's just interesting. It's just because even since I was here last, part of the fence was broken down last time I came. You can see that's been mended.
Repaired, yep.
So it's lovely to sort of see that level of care. Obviously, you know, the city council still have responsibility for maintenance, but then so much work is done by voluntary groups. You know, and if you're sort of thinking, especially during lockdown, you know, you're thinking to yourself, I'm using these green spaces more, how can I give back? You know, like, it's certainly something that I'm sure the Friends group would really appreciate any support that you could give.
Yeah, please. So get in touch with the Friends of Handsworth Park. We can share a link of their website here later on as well, on the comment section, and do get involved.
Yeah, I mean, we've just talked. Who have we talked about? We've talked about
William Booth,
Matthew Bolton, James Watt.
Yeah.
Touched on William Murdoch, William Booth, William McGregor, and the commemorative stone for the Roman
Henty,
Egyptians. Yeah, Henty and SI.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, we just walked past. There are hundreds of other graves, and you know, and every single one of those, sure, there are absolutely fascinating
Stories behind
that we
each
haven't
person.
even sort of touched on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny that we're just coming back. Just checked the time when you were just doing a bit to camera there.
Yeah.
And I can see it's nearly it's past.
Okay.
Because I was going to sort of say, oh, we'll go up and have a look at James Watt's house. But I always do that. I think I've learned now that once you get chatting, you can never sort of walk as far as you think you're going to walk. But if anybody's interested, then James Watt's house is sort of at the top.
Yeah,
you walk
just there.
up Churchill Road, and then just over there is the Heathfield estate. James Watt's house isn't there anymore, but there is a gatehouse with a commemorative plaque, which we think was built slightly after James Watt's death in 1819, but is the only sort of bit of the estate which actually is what would have been there during that period. I mention that because initially when they were talking about the possibility of having a green space in Handsworth, a park, establishing a park, they started talking about it in the 1870s, I think, but they were trying to sort of find a place to have a park, and the first place that they were thinking of was the Heathfield estate, and I thought, because I do walks around there, and if you're walking up Churchill Road, then it's quite a steep hill.
Yeah, good testing hill.
So I thought to myself, oh, maybe they didn't have it there because they thought that people wouldn't use it because, you know, like it's up on a hill. But I don't think it was that. Having sort of looked into it a bit more, at the time that they were looking for land, I think it was being leased on quite a long-term lease to a gentleman called Tangy, who sort of a big industrial family. So I just don't think that the estate was available. So then it was sort of sold a little bit later on, and it was sort of built on. But still, really beautiful area. And so what happened was the Grove estate was used initially, which is over the other side of the railway line, and then this part here this is the extension that was opened a little bit later, and this was glebe land belonging to the church, and then that was sort of bought and extended. So we're just coming the other side from where we just were with William McGregor.
There's a white gravestone there.
So you can see that if you're walking in the park, and you can see William McGregor's gravestone, because it's white, it sort of stands out. And I believe a few years ago, for some anniversary of Football League, football is not my area of expertise. I think it was all sort of cleaned up, and there was like some sort of commemorative service. So yeah, so we're just going to walk past Hector here, Mr. Handsworth.
Yes, we've done a video with Handsworth, Mr. Handsworth, with Dawn and her Black Heritage Network's walk, which we covered this art piece here.
Yeah.
And Handsworth Park does have an arts trail as well, which is just one of the pieces. So Jan Kimber, Van Lee Beck, all the people that are involved in that, bringing that, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been a great addition to the park.
It has.
I love it. The children come here and visit frequently. So do come and see the Handsworth Arts Trail as well.
Yeah, and every piece has got an interpretation board on it to tell you a little bit more about it. And then also on the Friends of Handsworth Park website there's more information. So yeah, I just think the Arts Trail, like you say, is just a brilliant addition. And I'm always like to walk past. It's called SS Journey.
Yes.
Because there's not many people who I know who are actually been turned into a statue. So I love that Hector Pinkney is there. You know, sort of, and it's a beautiful piece. It's by an artist called Luca Perry. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see the train cutting through. This is where the part of the park where there is a railway track that cuts through. Quite unique to have that through the park, and I love that little section as well, so the children can see the trains as they go past.
Yeah. So we're just next to the boathouse now. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the suffragettes and the suffrage movement. I mean, Birmingham in general has been sort of quite a sort of, I wouldn't say maybe a non-conformist space, but they certainly, you know, they want their rights. And when I was at school, I found out about the suffragettes, and they were pushing so that they could get votes for women, because at the beginning of the 20th century, women couldn't vote. And so what I hadn't appreciated was Birmingham's role in that, and also sort of the link to Handsworth. So there was this, you can see it's quite a modern building, but this boathouse, which is sometimes open to serve refreshments, people have alleged. I've never been here.
I've been here when I could get the boat out, and the lovely Australian couple that own it as well, or own the business here, but it's been closed for a while now because of COVID. Hopefully it'll be back open soon. That
would be lovely. So yeah, so this is a sort of a modern rebuild of an older Victorian boathouse. Now that was actually burnt down as part of the direct action the suffrage movement sort of partook in, you know, sort of during the early 20th century. The actual sort of push for votes for women began all around the country, but certainly we talk about these quite genteel ladies in Edgbaston who were sort of trying to you know, just petition politicians, and nothing was really happening. There was sort of like a back and forth, and you know, nothing was really shifting, and I think they weren't really getting anywhere. And I think it was out of that frustration that a more sort of radical part of the suffrage movement, the suffragettes, sort of came up, and they were involved in quite a lot of sort of direct action, like they vandalised a piece of art in the art gallery. They daubed paint in St Philip's Cathedral, and they burnt down Handsworth Boathouse. And just the brilliant resource of things that are online from the Library of Birmingham. You can actually sort of Google it, and you can see that the actual the newspaper article of the time that was sort of telling you all about it, and telling about these terrible women who had destroyed the boathouse. But yeah, so that is the Handsworth Boathouse. But what I was going to say as well, just in terms of voting rights, because it was wealthy men who could vote. So even if you were a man, it didn't guarantee that you could actually have the vote. But there was a gentleman called, he lived on Hall Road, I think it was Arthur O'Neill, and he was a Christian Chartist, so the Chartist movement. They pushed for a broadening out of the of voting rights, you know, so it wasn't just for wealthy men, and it was sort of one man, one vote. There were 6 core tenets of the Chartist movement. So yeah, again, another Handsworth link. Hall Road, Arthur O'Neill was actually sort of living there, key member of the Christian Chartist, and he was actually jailed in Stafford Jail for his Chartist beliefs. Stafford Jail, because obviously Handsworth was part of Staffordshire.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm just going to have a quick read of the comments. So, loving this today, guys. I felt locked in lately, and it's just what I need. Loving the suffragette history too. There you go. You are changing people's lives here through the power of a virtual platform.
Oh,
that's great. That's the idea. We just want to inspire people, those who may be isolated, to look at what's on their doorstep and go out for a walk, pluck up the courage, get out, go for a walk. It's safe to go out in pairs as well, as long as you keep your social distance, as we have been doing today. So yeah, it's really nice. And if you're enjoying this with a cuppa, maybe you're going to go out later, why not come out to Handsworth and try and have a walk and retrace our steps? Yeah. So thank you for everyone joining us, and please continue watching. We've got a few more minutes. Do you want to head up to anywhere else?
Well, I mean, these were the sort of the key
points.
We could just walk up and then walk down. I haven't got any more stories. But I was going to say, in terms of Handsworth and the suffrage movement, when I was at school and I learnt about the Cat and Mouse Act, because what was happening was the women were being imprisoned, and so what they decided to do, they would sort of starve themselves to death, you know, just sort of refuse food. So the government didn't want them, you know, because that would have been a scandal. So what they started to do was they would release them, so then they would sort of start eating, and then they would rearrest them. But what actually started at Winson Green Prison was the force feeding of the women, which is just was a terrible thing. Just sounded really, you know, just so brutal. And again, Library of Birmingham, I went on a study day all about that. So lots of information in the Library of Birmingham just about that. But in terms of the link to Handsworth, one of the doctors who was responsible for the force feeding of the women actually lived in Handsworth, and so his house was I think was somewhere along Soho Road. Thank goodness we got to the top of the hill.
Yes, we can have a breather at the top here.
But there used to be demonstrations in front of his house because of his involvement with the force feeding of the women. So it's just amazing, you know, the history that's around every corner. Just probably on your road, certainly on my road, you know, I'm sure on Taz's road, everybody's got these, you know, fascinating little tidbits of stories. I found out a couple of years ago that a house just up from my house, somebody who lived there had been a passenger on the Titanic, and I was just looking at some records of people on the Titanic, and just sort of saw Erdington, just had a look. Oh my goodness, that's just literally, you know, like a minute from my house. So, sadly he passed away, he drowned in the Titanic. But yeah, just like these unexpected stories. And I was talking to my friend about this when we came and had a look round Handsworth Park the other day, that often the things that are fascinating are these sort of, you know, not the grand stories of you know, sort of, I don't know, like Matthew Bolton and, you know, his Ormolu. It is these things that people can sort of connect to, like, you know, what people used to love when I was working at the Museum of the Jewellery Quarter. They used to love that there was still the pot of Marmite.
So
that
I'm just going to show behind you. There's a squirrel, as we can see there behind. Lovely, just passing through.
And
there is something that we wanted to show as well. So
I haven't
you
quite
can see signs of life here, and spring coming hopefully soon, and weathers you can see. There you go. No flowers yet.
But it won't be long, they'll come
Won't
up
be
very
long.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that little pot of Marmite in the Museum of the Jewellery Quarter, people used to love the story that, you know, it was still there, you know, sort of just been left. It's a time capsule museum, sadly closed at the moment, but just been left on the final day of trading, and it's been preserved, and it was just a pot of Marmite that Miss Olive would use to sort of spread the toast for Mr. Tom. So history doesn't have to be about, you know, there's the grandest things and you know, the sort of the wealthy and or battles. You know, it's just everyday stories, and I think if they sort of connect to, you know, your life and how you feel, then, you know, that's what's important about history. So
I've got lots of thumbs up and likes for that comment there. So hope you can relate to your history on your doorstep, like we've just done here in Handsworth. And as you mentioned, my house is also had a very important figure.
Yeah.
You know, as somebody who was in the army, and his plane crashed, and unfortunately he's now buried in Amsterdam in Netherlands. So yeah, history. If you look up, you can find history on your doorstep, literally.
yeah, I mean, this is when we're doing the volunteer training program for the Heritage Volunteers Training Program. Part of what we do is, you know, sort of give you ways to investigate, and you can investigate anything. Like you can say, you can investigate your house, your road, your area, and what I find is you can just sort of spend hours, and, you know, you go, your research takes you in really unexpected directions. And what is great now is there's so much information online. When I was growing up, you know, it was all sort of in libraries. And,
Yes, lots of hard research.
Yeah.
But now it's just a click of a button, and
That's
you can
amazing.
find that information.
Yeah. So, and I'm just so pleased that we've come out. Since we've been out, the sun has really come out. It was a little bit dull when we started.
Yes.
But now it's beautiful sunshine. It's just, it's fantastic. We haven't walked very far, but
Well,
yeah.
we've just done a lap of the park from this section of the park.
Yeah.
But look, we've taken 45 minutes on just that section.
Yeah.
And we could have carried on and taken you to the other side of the park. But like you said, there's a few prominent houses nearby in the area that we could visit.
Yeah.
You know, so you can take that and incorporate that into your walk, guys. It's just a little bit of research, find out what's near you, come out and make the most of this beautiful day like today. Get out, wear some suitable footwear like we've done,
I've got my
and
wellies on.
got the wellies on there, and I've got my boots on. So it doesn't matter if we get a little bit muddy, because we're going to see all those gems, those hidden places that we really need to show you as well. So back to our start point. The green flag status of the park is flying high there, a little bit of wind, and we're back to the finish point. So just want to say thank you to Rachel, who's come along and brought all this wealth of knowledge and information. She's amazing. Please do give us some thumbs up, some hearts, some love. Show us some love. Thank you for all the guys that are here and you know, taking part virtually with us. Thank you for all the comments. Hopefully we've got back to a few of you who've been watching, and those who've been walking. Enjoy the rest of your walk today. So we're going to finish back to where we started. There's the board, and there's the Hampstead Road entrance. So once again, let's turn the camera so that we're both in view, and we'll keep our social distance. So thank you for joining us, and we've had a great morning on our walk. Hope you enjoyed it too. Please do share this video still, because you still can reach a lot more people if you share it, hitting the share button. And then let's get this information out to everyone so they can enjoy it as I pass it on to others. And I'm partnering up with Legacy again, who do some amazing work in these areas that we all work and live in. I'm here next week, Wednesday, again with Dawn. We're going to do a lovely walk from Perry Hall Park. So please do join us Wednesday, 10 o'clock, live on Facebook for the next sensory walk next week. But I'm also back tomorrow on Zoom. So if anybody likes Zoom and wants to see each other, have a chat with one another, there's a Zoom walk tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'll be at the Chinbrook Meadows and a lovely sensory walk along the Chinbrook. So do join me tomorrow as well on Zoom. But thank you. We'll keep looking at the comments and monitoring the comments. And thank you, Sally. Thank you, Sandra, Angela, Susan. Who else we've got here? Verona. We've got a few more. Lulu, Mumtaz. Oh, there's so many. Natalie. Thank you for sharing those lovely stories. Christina as well. Everyone who joined us today. Owen. Thank you, Daniel. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.